this morning, yes, this morning at like 9 in the morning, I watched The Founder. It was on Netflix, and I was like, I really want McDonald's. Also, I have a hangover, so I want that. And with that, everyone, welcome to the Gotti cast for 2004.
Gotti. But we're
Spend
not
it.
talking about these nuts, though. We're talking about video games.
Video games.
We're talking about the good old video games. Erik brought up a really good point that I was thinking about too. Obviously, we do these in chunks because we put out two a month. And for these next 2 years that we're going to discuss, one year I decided to be very artistic and very like, this is my
This
game
is
of
cinema.
the year. And then Erik's all like, woo, 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 woo. And then the next year, Erik's like, this is my game of the year. And I'm like, woo, 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 woo. So 2004 is the year that I'm the fancy guy, though. Erik wants to be all woo,
Fancy
woo,
living.
woo.
Here we come. La 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 la.
Well, because I'm assuming before we get into it, I'm assuming your game of the year was like when 2004 was around, right? Like you were playing this game at the time.
Nope.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh, it's
So I
pretty
guess
recent.
okay. So then I guess that doesn't so I get wow. So then that really changes it because I was like, oh, okay. He picked this game because it's, as we say, childhood, right?
Nope,
But
not
that makes
childhood.
the fact that my game of the year I played, let's see, 2007. Uh let's do the math there. 16 years before, like you said,
Dude,
recently.
a kid could drive. That's how long ago Brian played this the first time.
I just got done talking about my game of the year, but I'm going to include this part before it because Erik just reminded me. Another sequel. That's my honorable mention. I took a cue out of your book because you did the thing a few episodes ago. Halo 2. What a surprise, right? Uh Halo
What a
2 was
bit.
awesome. And it, like the game I'm about to talk about, it definitely was a game-changing game as well for multiplayer, console multiplayer. I like where they took the story. It definitely started making it where it wasn't just a knockoff of other games. They started adding more lore and the whole Arbiter inclusion. And again, it's one of those games where, just like the first Halo, I can remember almost every mission, every second of it, like all the little details to it. Uh, it's great. So
Master Chief Simp.
it's okay. I'm fully aware of it. So this isn't my game of the year, obviously, for that year because it's a collection of games, which was a big deal for us then, which we may discuss some of those contents once we get there.
Mm-hmm.
But for 2004, is really the first time that I can like be all artsy fartsy and be like, I'm picking such a well-renowned game and it's this and this and
I
this. And
feel like this is like the start, like this time is officially the start where we're gonna be okay, like genuinely the like these games are actual like masterpieces and
yeah, we
like
got we got some really hardcore like classics coming through, I think, starting in 2004. Because this game technically came out in 2004. When I played it, it was 2007, and it was on the Orange Box, which had many games. I
on
don't know,
X
on
Orange
Xbox.
Box.
Obviously, I'm gonna be a funny boomer. Kids, you're probably thinking Valve, the people with Steam, they used to make video games, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to make a third one. They always get to two with everything. They never make it past. And so
And they
what is
also will make prequels.
and they also make prequels. They're too afraid to go forward. They have to go backward. But Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 is probably, if you were to talk to like gamers who are like, they kind of know like the history of games and all this, they would probably list this as like one of the best first person shooters, one of the most revolutionary first person shooters of all time. Like that's like a Doom, like that and Doom are kind of two of those that you discuss a lot. Um and obviously when I was younger, this game was just something that, because again, getting the Orange Box, I was like, okay, like these are games I've heard about. Because obviously at that point we were 13. So I think we were old enough to not be like, what is this? Like, I think it was a good age for us to start because we were experiencing, I think 2007, spoiler alert, was probably the beginning of like when those games and like what cemented our like what video games would become was really 2007 in a lot of ways. And I think it was the perfect age for us. And Half-Life 2 was one of those games that I think it's very much this atmospheric game. Like a lot of games, you play as Gordon Freeman. He is Gordon Freeman. He is the, he is there. He's a face, but
he just exists.
He exists. Alex would probably be the more main character. You follow Alex and this whole storyline, the G-Man. It's one of these things where if you want to play it like just simply with the story and the characters, it works. But then there's so many other things around it that just make you think and go, what is this all about? And again, Valve was always so good at that. I believe this was the introduction of the Source engine as well, which kind of became one of the most revolutionary engines at the time too. Like Valve was definitely a company that's kind of the equivalent of like a Lucas or like a Cameron, where even though I think Half-Life 2 in terms of writing and characters are really unique, and like really well done, they definitely came at it with the technological stuff first. It's shocking to me how well it looks still in 2023. Like it definitely looks outdated just from like a graphical perspective and the way things load, but like the physics engine is still like incredible. We got Gary's mod from this like alone, which may be the worst or best thing to ever happen. But the game itself is just very interesting. It takes you through a lot of different locales. City 17 is really unique. The characters you meet, the villains you face. Again, the mechanics in it are so cool. It takes you through such a wild ride, like Ravenholm, which is like one of the most iconic single player missions of all time. That mission is ingrained in my memory. It's incredible. The mission, like you get to drive like a car in it, which I think the way that it handles is again very unique and interesting. I think the sound design in Half-Life 2 is like again, it's a game that has aged very well.
A fine wine.
Like a fine wine. And I definitely think just from a single player perspective, like from a technical perspective, it's a masterpiece. I think it's incredible. Just from a single player perspective, just the way you are sucked into this world and the questions you asked and just how immersive it is. It is like there's so much going on, and again, the journey it takes you on, and the memories that it brings back, because it's one of those childhood things, right? But like you were saying, this is sort of the beginning of when we were really getting these games that like were very sophisticated, but like we were starting to notice the shift in video games where the medium was becoming so different. And I think it happened at the right time too, because we were just getting to that age where a lot of these games started to come out. And I think the world that they built, and again, it's so so depressing to me because Valve were one of those companies, and I mean, I guess in a weird way, they're kind of the company that made it out, because we're seeing now with like Rocksteady and how Naughty Dog's going and Rockstar a little bit. Like Valve was one of those companies, and I think their whole thing was, we're just gonna put out games now. We're gonna have our own, like, which, as a lot of people say, they don't have to make video games anymore. They make billions of dollars from Steam. And it's a shame, but when Valve was out here putting together these games, it really does feel like James Cameron, though, because James Cameron just puts out
argument that Valve has never put out a bad game. You could make that argument.
I agree, because you see even the space that they like sit in with like Portal, Half-Life, Dota, Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, Left 4 Dead, like they definitely had a feel, and you knew it was their games. Like you could not mistake them for anyone else. Like they had such a feeling to them and just an atmosphere to them. But like you said, they just came swinging every single time, and it's great that. And I think this is really the beginning of their rise, because then for the years following that, that's when all these new franchises started coming out. Every time I've had to look up for the games for each year, I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to have this as my game of the year. This is my game of the year. I looked at this, and like the first thing I saw was Half-Life 2. I'm like, oh, sick. I could be kind of fancy for one video finally and be all like, game is so revolutionary. But no, it's still fantastic. And again, like, there's so much about it that I think is incredible. And again, like, Valve has such a great, it's just weird. Me talking out loud now, or thinking out loud about like the whole, the comparison to like James Cameron and George Lucas, that is very accurate, because their games, lots of games you play, they're revolutionary, but maybe they're not the greatest game, or they're fantastic games, but they're not doing anything new. They were making a fantastic game and setting the standard for what games should be with their engine and just the way it plays and just the way that, like, the environments and how well it ran and the journey that it took you on and just the lore that it built. Because again, like, I still to this day have never played anything before Half-Life 2, because that's all like PC, and I'm like, I want to, because I know that takes place at Black Mesa, and that's like a whole nother thing. But just me not knowing Half-Life, playing this game, I'm like I think you could jump into it even if you don't know that, because it gets you so immersed and involved, and it's great. And it has great little cute moments too, with, I can't think of Alex's sidekick, but her robot sidekick who comes running around. He brings a little bit of, like, it's not dystopia like all the time. Like, he gives you a little bit lighthearted humor. And I think the voice acting is top tier. And again, like, it's weird to me that this game has stood the test of time, unlike a lot of games that came out around that time. Half-Life 2, man. Half-Life 2 is great. Not all sequels are bad, because
Half-Life,
nobody really, a lot of normies haven't played the first one. So,
Half-Life 2 was so amazing for you, Brian, that you didn't even mention an honorable mention.
oh shit. That is true.
That's how amazing it is.
But okay, so now that I'm done talking about my game of the year of 2004, and I just had to do my honorable mention, Erik, just get that out of the way. Erik, what is your honorable mention, so one of us doesn't mess up, of 2004?
All right. So my honorable mention, nice, simple, easy. Some would say simple and clean. But on the GBA, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Oh, but I'm the fucking Master Chief simp. Okay, Sora simp. See, that rolls off the tongue better.
The Halo simp, Sora simp, they work the same. It was the first Kingdom Hearts game to, confuse everyone, because you're like, what do you mean? Because the first game wasn't confusing whatsoever.
No.
Nope. And then they decided, hey, here's a card battle system instead of having to fight normally. Have fun. And then they remade it for later gen consoles. Well, PS2, and then the HD stuff. And then they said, so screw the GBA. But GBA, Game of the Year 2004. All right. So I'm going to be honest, I was struggling a bit trying to come up with my answer. I was thinking about a bunch of different things. I was thinking of games that I hadn't even finished playing yet.
Which has been a struggle with me this whole thing as well.
But ultimately, I decided on this game because it's just silly, simple, fun. Okay? And it's got a banger soundtrack. It's probably got one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. It does have a Mondo print, Brian. It's $1,200 to get on eBay. So
oh, jeez.
Katamari Damacy. Maylene does not
Yeah,
like that.
Maylene does not like that.
This game is just so stupid. Okay, let me just tell you what the plot is, Brian.
It's
Okay,
so stupid.
no, it literally this game is so fucking stupid. The plot. Okay, so you are the prince of the cosmos. Your dad's the king of the cosmos. Your dad just goes on like a fucking bender and dances the entire galaxy away. All the
As one does.
stars, all the constellations, everything. Your dad just says, I'm partying my fucking ass off because I deserve it. I deserve it. Also, he speaks in record scratches. He goes, and you're like, oh, hey, nice dad. Um,
Have
and
you always sounded like this?
he tasked you because, he's the king. He doesn't have to do shit. He destroyed everything. He's just tasking you to rebuild the stars, make constellations in the sky again. So he gives you this little Katamari, and he tasks you with going to Earth and just collecting things and putting it on this Katamari to build into a new star, because that's how stars work. You just pick up a bunch of garbage and throw it into the
It's
sky.
the most scientifically accurate game of all time, I think.
Oh, literally. um, honestly, I mean, this is probably going to be nice and short for me. So unfortunately, this episode won't be super long for my part. I just think this game is just a shit ton of fun. It's something you just put on for that time limit. It's just a few couple missions, and you just go and you just collect shit and see how big you can get this Katamari to be, and try to beat your record. Try to see if you can collect like the secret items in the levels. Once you beat the level, you get some story dialogue with this Japanese family. The kids are like, "But mom, the stars, they're gone." And mom's like, "Shut the fuck up. We're going to the store."
Oh, damn.
Mom, did you not see that ball behind you? Oh, shut the fuck up. We need to cross the street. No, literally, there's like a moment they just cross the street and the kids see it, but the mom misses it.
Oh, parents.
And eventually, like, you go through the levels and you're collecting things, and they're bigger and bigger, and like suddenly you're like, okay, I'm picking up like shovels and birds, and oh, there's a doghouse. And then eventually it's like, okay, I'm collecting houses and skyscrapers and blimps and parts of the ocean, parts of the ground to make into a star. It's so fucking surreal. And it's just, you have so much fun. And then the music's just bopping the entire time you're back there. Shout out to the theme, of course. That theme is a classic theme. Na, 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 na. But then, of course, my favorite are Cherry Tree Blossom and believe I can't remember the other one on top of my head. That's my favorite. Roll Me In. Yeah, Cherry Tree Blossom and Roll Me In. Those two bangers. No, literally. I could. There's just something about that soundtrack that just sticks in your mind, and it's so Japanese. That's really what it is. It's just so fucking Japanese and so fun.
I think I
And
played part of this game like when I had Xbox Magazine, when that was a thing, and they put out one on the 360, a Katamari game, and I ended up playing the demo for it because you'd get the demo disc. And I just remember being like, this seems like it could be fun. And then I think I just played it the one time and I was like, okay, because I wasn't into games like that. So
I only played Katamari Damacy because it was on Game Pass at
okay.
first. And I picked it up like I think a little over a year ago. I can't remember. I'd have to look up my achievements, but I own it on my PS5. So power of a remastered PS2 game on my PS5. And then they're releasing like the sequels now are getting remasters, which are really cool. And more soundtracks to boost from that too. That's the soundtracks in any of these games. I've only played the first one, but I've listened to the soundtracks, all bangers, just all bangers. It's all you can ask for. The control Maylene fell in a box. The controls for the Katamari Can be a little bit wonky at times when you're first trying to start out because you're like, wait, I have to use both sticks to move around. Like you have to move forward on both sticks to move forward. Switch angles. You have to like rotate your sticks properly. You can do a speed boost if you do it at certain motions and things like that. I jump. There's a jump button, but it's using the sticks.
You're really selling it. There's a jump button.
There's a jump button. But it's really about just trying to build that Katamari as big as you can within the allotted time limit and seeing how quickly people can build like the first little bits are like again like 5 centimeters. They want you 5 centimeters, and people can get the first level to like almost a kilometer in 5 minutes, and you're like, what the fuck? You guys are pros at this. I'm just a weakling. Honestly, that and that's mainly why I think this is probably would stick out, even though if I played more games. Thanks, Maylene. Played more games in 2004. I don't know, maybe Half-Life 2. I'd get on it and say, you know what, fuck you, Katamari. This isn't cinema. This is cinema. But Katamari Damacy, just an excellent time, worth just listening for the music alone. But honestly, just fun game all around too. Just see how big you can make those stars. You know, your dad. Don't have your dad go on a bender anymore.
Yeah, he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
it might bring up some deep trauma. So, trigger warning.
At the end of the video, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what is your favorite games.
What's your favorite trigger warning?
What's your favorite trigger warning as well? We could name a few, but we don't want to do that for you.
Yeah, well, because I can't say mine in front of someone because it's
a trigger warning.
Yeah, it's a trigger warning.
See, now you're triggering yourself. But hey, catch us next time where we do the same thing over again, except I'm the serious guy this time around. Toodaloo.